I've had my fair share of run-ins with the media.
Do you want a round of applause? Oh, thank you for going to work.
You want the public on your side, don't you?
Eddie Dempsey here, General Secretary of the RMT. This is the man whose union's going to ruin Christmas.
Well, the media is always going to attack us. That is what they do. They tend to attack trade union leaders. They call people like me a trade union baron, but I'm not a baron. I'm an elected representative of my members, and I don't get to move people around like they're pieces on a chessboard. It's the complete opposite. My members decide what they're going to do, and then I'll go out and represent them.
I think workers in this country ought to stand up on their own 2 feet and fight for better pay, because you don't get it by asking.
You try living on 24 grand in London and see how you get on.
So they will carry on attacking us at every opportunity. But I think that means we're doing a good job, because if people weren't having a go at us in the media, you'd probably have to think, are we fighting hard enough for the members that we represent?
Are you or are you not a Marxist?
Richard, you do come up with the most remarkable twaddle sometimes.
I've known Mick for a long time. Mick is a very, very good public speaker. He's a no-nonsense type of guy who's very straightforward in how he puts his case for his members.
Some of your members will still stay on the picket lines. What will they do if agency workers try to cross those picket lines?
Well, we will picket them. What do you think we'll do? We run a picket line and we'll ask them not to go to work. Do you not know how a picket line works?
What if they do anyway? What will picketing involve?
Well, you can see what picketing involves. I can't believe this line of questioning.
He was really able to, I think, capture the imagination of Britain at a particular time. Everybody in the country was feeling the pinch, and I think he struck a note with society at large.
There are lower paid people and there are wealthy people in this society. And what's wrong in this society is that there is an imbalance between the people that do the work to keep this country going, who create the wealth of our civilisation and don't get a fair share of that wealth because it's going to people who are vastly wealthy.
And that's something I want to see the union carry on.
Our members are being asked to join the dole queues in this country so that these companies who've been robbing us for decades can carry on laughing all the way to the bank.
Billionaire wealth surged by 2 trillion in 2024. That's 3 times faster than a year before. Whilst the number of people living in poverty has barely changed since 1990. The 10 richest men doubled their wealth during COVID, whilst the 99% of the world, their income fell. So the money's going to the rich, and it's not just the money, it's all of the national assets of the country too. A lot of our public services, much of our infrastructure, much of the housing stock, most of the land, all of the national assets of the country have been transferred from public ownership to private ownership. The experience for people in Britain in modern life is one of chaos. People's lives are chaotic, work is insecure, society feels divided. There's a strange sense of individualism because over the past, God knows how many years, what we've seen is a dramatic transfer of wealth from working class people to rich people. So I think what's happened in Britain over the past 40 years, all my life really, is neoliberalism has taken away decent work. It's taken away trade unions from a lot of communities. It's taken away a sense of community, and it's left people feeling insecure and divided. And in politics in Britain for the last 10 or maybe 20 years, there's been a hyper focus on all of the things that divides us rather than the things that we've got in common. And the role of the trade union movement is to reach out and bring people together from all walks of life and get them to work together, because that's what we do. In the workplace, it doesn't matter what colour you are, what gender you are, where you're from. All it matters is that you're at work and you need to have a common bond with the people you work with in order to make your working lives better. So ordinary people might not have the money, they might not have the reach politically, but what they do have is each other, and there's more of us than there are of them. We just need to be better organised. And that's the central message. The reason people's lives have fallen so far behind is because the institutions that allowed us to organise with each other and have a more permanent stake in society have been removed. And it's our job to return people to that. There was a time when 80% of contracts of employment in this country were covered by a collective bargaining agreement of a trade union. Now it's 25%. If we're able to turn the dial the other way, so we have more collective bargaining, more trade union organisation, then we will see workers with a better standard of living. And it doesn't stop in the workplace. We have got to carry that on and have an organised approach to delivering proper housing for people, proper public services and the infrastructure the country needs so that we can get things moving again. Well, the cost of living crisis is a scam in the sense that what we saw over those years was not wages driving inflation. What we saw was massive profits and price gouging driving inflation. But the political response to it was to make workers pay for it instead of the super rich. There was a lot of fear whipped up in the country about if workers get a decent pay rise, then it's going to be the end of the world.
Pay rises cannot keep up with inflation if you're not to have a wage price spiral.
Well,
you know that. It's got to be below inflation.
That's absolute rubbish. Workers haven't been getting a decent pay rise for 40 years odd in this country. People will get behind a campaign if they can see that it's actually leading somewhere that's meaningful. If we give people a sense of direction and we point to a future that's better, people will be excited by that and want to get involved. Trade unions represent progress. We are the heart of the democratic movement in Britain and in other countries around the world. Our history stretches right back to the earliest forms of agitation for democratic reform in this country. Everything from Peterloo to the suffragettes movement, to the Chartists, to the Weekend, that's been rooted in working class organisation and the trade union movement. We gave birth to democracy in this country and to the ideas that people should have a say over the running order of their lives. Before I joined the trade union, like a lot of people I knew, I almost started to feel hopeless. I grew up in South East London on a council housing estate at the start of Thatcher's neoliberal project. My father was a deep sea sailor. He sailed out of the Port of London, but the docks were shut in 1981. Thousands of people were thrown out of work, and in that same period, there was an awful lot of closures in the railway. And in that part of London, people were employed in rail, in the docks, on the ships, or in the marketplace. So when a lot of that employment fell away, things became really tough. My old man, he went to work on the buildings. His wages fell by 35% in that period. There was a lot of loan shark activity, and a lot of people on our estate, their mothers, owed money to people like that, including my own. I remember having to hide when the doorbell went, the telly was turned off, and everyone had to be quiet because my mother didn't have the money to pay. But that was the nature of it. People had to try and get money for short notice to meet the basic necessities of life. It was hard for young people because my father always brought me up to work hard, and he worked hard all his life, including when he had cancer. He worked all the way through his chemotherapy and his radiotherapy because he couldn't afford to take any time off because he didn't have any sick pay. When those young kids are growing up and looking around, the people they see with money in their local area tend to be the people who are not working hard, who are not doing the right thing, and are involved in selling drugs or involved in crime of some type. So you can see how young people fall into that trap. I could have easily ended up down the wrong path, but I was lucky enough to find a job that had union membership, the RMT union. It gave me dignity at work for the first time. I'd worked in a lot of different types of unsecure work with low wages, and it gave me a sense of pride being at work and being part of something with other people, being part of a trade union, a common endeavour to try and make people's lives better. There aren't a lot of people from working class backgrounds who get a chance to speak in public in Britain, and there is a sense that we're not supposed to be there, but I believe that we are. I remember when I was a teenager seeing Bob Crow on the news defending the members of this union around some strike we were having on London Underground. And I was startled by how unapologetic he was, how similar he sounded to people I knew. And he was funny, he made me laugh, and it inspired me. It was important to see that we don't always have to be on the back foot. We can be confident in what we do. And I think Mick's done that in the modern era. He's done that to a whole new generation of people, and that's something I want to see the union carry on. I think we need more working class people in public life, but what we really need is good organisation. It's more important that we've got strong trade unions, and trade unions are playing a role in society and in politics. So I don't know about heroes or any of that type of stuff. It just needs to be the case that working people through their institutions have got a voice in politics and have got a voice in society. I understand what it's like not to have money to put on the electric key. I understand what it's like to have the red letter come through the door. I know what it's like not to have the money to pay for your travel fare to get to work. And it doesn't have to be like that. The trade union movement is there to try to bring people together so we can change things. We all want a decent health service, we want good housing, we want good jobs, and we want a world that lives in peace. And none of those things are going to come about unless people get organised and demand them. Because that's what the trade union has done for me. It's given me a sense of purpose and duty. It gave me hope instead of despair. It gave me a way to improve my life and be responsible for other people that are around me. And that's how we want society to be. We want people interested in each other, wanting to look after their neighbours. Our motto in the RMT is unity is strength. We know bringing people together in unified action is what gives us strength. It's what gives our members their wages. It's what puts a roof over their heads. We do that on the basis that people are workers, not on the basis of what gender they are, what race they are, or where they're from. Now, the RMT is small, but it punches well above its weight. We're not victims, we're not vulnerable, we're not waiting for someone to come and save us. We have got agency. Working class people have got the ability to deliver for themselves. And the way they do that is through working class organisation and through trade unions. So we're not waiting for anyone to come and save us. We're quite prepared to go out there and do the job for ourselves. And that's the message we want working class people to have right across this country. You've seen the media relentlessly attacking the RMT union every time we've been on strike, and that's true of all trade unions, no matter who their workers are, no matter what they're fighting for. The media will attack them on behalf of the big employers in this country. It's a really important reason why we need independent media, to give working class people a fair voice, just giving us the opportunity to say things on our own terms. So support Double Down News on Patreon. We need more people like them.